Hey, welcome back to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Justin Stoddart. Very excited about this topic that seems to be like a unicorn. Work-life balance. Is there such a thing in real estate? Can you actually have it all? I have with me today Beth Kellen. She's a top producing agent, has been for years. And we're going to get into this as to at a point in her life, her highest producing year, she had very strict parameters, 5 miles within her house and had to be done by 5:30 p.m. and had a GCI of $620,000 that year. We're going to talk about how she did that. Before we get into that, I want to thank you again for tuning into this show and let you know that if you go to thinkbigger.realestate, on that website, you can sign up to get in your inbox every week the highlights of this week's shows and specific action steps. So be sure and sign up for that. We got a lot of people reaching out to me, very grateful that because they can't catch every episode, but this really gives them the Cliff's Notes, the ability to apply things in their life, which is how you become a big thinker. So Beth, let's get into this. Let me kind of begin by maybe introducing you. Beth Kellen, again, top producing Windermere agent here out of the Portland, Oregon market. You were licensed since 2001 and really caught hold of ninja selling, which was highlighted a few episodes ago in 2007. You're now a ninja certified mastery coach. I am excited and grateful to have you on the show today. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's such an honor.
Well, it's an honor for all of us to hear how you have done what you've done and how you're now, again, have moving beyond success to significance, right? Where you're looking to find success through other people by being a coach, by helping other people to do what you did. So let me just kind of restate that in case people miss this, which is, you were at a point in your life where you had your little babies at home and you decided, like, I've got to be done by 5:30 because why? Tell me why was that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, 5:30 was when the daycare shuts down. And for the first several years of our kiddos' lives, my husband worked nights. So he and I were like ships in the night. He would keep the kiddos during the days, except for the few days that he had to work. And then he would go on to work at 4. So I had to be the one to pick them up at 5:30 when daycare was over. So I didn't have a choice. I had to shut my day down at 5 in order to get to them. I don't know if you know this, but they charge you about $5 a minute beyond 5:30. So it can get costly if you're not on time. So I didn't have a choice. 4 nights a week, I had to pick up the kiddos and have them with me. And then the other 3 nights, I wanted to see my husband on those nights that he was home.
Yeah. Powerful stuff. So you just simply drew a line in the sand and said, okay, my day ends at this time. Therefore, I must get a lot done before 5 p.m.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would you say, Beth, as now you've coached people, that the hours that they dedicate to real estate, let's say it's 8 to 5, right? If someone were to really get in and get after it, do you believe that that's enough time to create a successful real estate business if you're highly focused and have a solid plan?
Absolutely. I think that the focus piece is absolutely the key. We go about our days and we do so much throughout the day, and how much of it is actually productive work?
Yeah. I think we all fall victim to that, right? Or choose that, right? I don't know if victim's the right word for the Think Bigger Real Estate Show, but we all make choices, right, that dilute our productivity, that dilute our effectiveness, and keep us from really being on task, those things that matter the most. Let's talk a little bit about this. Okay, so the time frame is clear. You've got to be done by 5 p.m. Now, you made the decision also to work within a very specific geographical ring from your home. Was it 5 miles? Is that what I remember you telling me?
It was actually closer to 10.
Okay.
And I was a little bit, I would be choosier if it was closer. And of course, I had lots of help and would refer out if it was a little beyond the location of where I needed to be. I live in Southwest Portland. My kiddos were in daycare in Tigard. So if I'm showing a property out in outer Northeast at 4:30, it was not happening.
Yeah. So you then, how did you didn't turn business down. You just created strong referral partners in the Northeast, Southeast, kind of any area that was outside of that ring, to where you said, I don't service that area. And probably I would imagine to some degree, it was a service to your clients to find people that really specialize in that area.
Absolutely. And it's still always a work in progress, and something that I strive to continue to work on is making those relationships feel seamless. And it is challenging, but when you don't have any other choice and your kiddos become the priority, it somehow makes it happen. And I looked back on that year and I thought, wow, I really did not work evenings this whole last year. It was pretty amazing.
It's truly phenomenal. Interesting to have you say no to stuff, right? I think no is one of the most powerful words that anybody that's highly successful gets really comfortable saying, is like, no, I can't do that. No, that's not a good customer for me. No, I don't work well there. Because if you say yes to it, then you're saying no to picking up your kids, right?
Right.
Yes, we tend to be, those of us that are in sales tend to be very kind of yes driven, yes customer service, right? But I think one of the more powerful things is to realize that yes, the customer is always right. Yes, we service the customer at a really high level, but no, not everybody needs to be our customer. No, like there's a certain standard that people have to fit into in order to meet our customer criteria. Would you say, Beth, that by you making that choice to say, I'm going to say no to those, far northeast properties from where you were at, did you start to fill that void with properties that were closer in, that were actually closer to where you were at?
Yeah, good question. It's interesting how it all kind of works out. My principal broker, John Gregory, always said that, when you stick your hand in a candy jar, you go in the jar, and in order to pull out some candy, you have to let go of a few to get your hand out of the jar, right? So it became that quality over quantity. And I also learned that if I was honest about who I am and let my folks know that, look, I'd be happy to show you that house, at 4:30, but I have to be on the road by 5:00 to get to my kiddos. They were the people that I really wanted to be working with were super respectful about that. And I went through this whole period where I tried to not be a mom when I was at work and not work when I was being a mom. When in reality, when I combined the two and let everybody know who I was, it became more natural and it was more of a harmony versus a work-life balance.
I think that's probably a great way to put it, is that balance can be a true unicorn, right? But you found like counterbalance. Like there's times where I'm going to bring my kids with me on a showing, right? And you probably, in fact, you've shared that with me before, that you knew certain clients where that would be totally permissible and they'd probably love it. There are other clients that maybe wouldn't appreciate that as much, but you had the emotional intelligence to be able to tell the difference between the two, right?
Yeah. And so those evenings that I would work, it was like, I'd be happy to, if the only time we can get there is at 6 or 6:30, I'm happy to do that. You can have me, but I'm also going to have my 2 little kiddos in tow.
And do you feel like that lost you business, or do you feel like people were okay with that?
Oh, good question. For the most part, they were okay with it. And we do feel like we want to capture it all, right? I fall victim to that as well. And I think that at the end of the day, if somebody really doesn't understand that I'm also a mom and that I put my kids as a priority, they're probably not somebody that I want to be working with.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a powerful way to look at it, right? To have an abundance mentality, to say there's enough clients out there that would totally respect the way that I work and the person that I am and what's important to me. And if somebody doesn't, that's okay. They've self-selected outside of my tribe, and I'm okay with that. I'll simply fill that with someone who will respect what's important to me, and the fact that I can serve them at a high level, even with the circumstances that I have and the other things that are important to me.
Absolutely.
Tell us, Beth, obviously Ninja Selling has been instrumental to you being able to have these parameters, being able to have the kind of referral business that you have. Talk to us about some of the key components. Obviously, we highlighted kind of Ninja Selling last week. Talk to us for you. What are some key things that have really stood out and been real difference makers when it comes to implementing this kind of methodology?
My business philosophy goes back to the book, The Go-Giver. I don't know if you've read it. It's a big ninja book. It's one of the required readings, of course, for ninja installation and as an instructor, of course. And I have always subscribed to the law of value, which is that your true worth is determined by how much more you give in payment, by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. And if I can repeat that mantra in my head, the money just shows up because I'm able to add value to people's lives through the relationships that I have with them, for helping to solve their problems or helping them find their dream, whether it be a house or a location or a job or whatever is going on in their lives, maybe a marriage or, a new kiddo or empty nesters, whatever that might be.
And I love what you said there. And I think the value proposition of a real estate agent is being questioned right now. People are wondering, why would I pay a full commission when I can pay a technology company a partial commission? And according to the technology company, get just as good or better service than if I went through a full service realtor. And I think what you're describing is what the tech companies aren't stating, number one. And number two, like the reality is that people have additional concerns beyond just real estate. Yes, the way you're introduced to them and what you're initially there to do is solve real estate problems. But if in the process, you have a very robust and powerful network because you've poured into people for years and years, and you have the ability to make professional introductions to somebody that is going to get them a better job or get them a promotion or allow them to better serve their customers. Like that's some of the stuff that's really difficult, if not impossible, for an algorithm to solve. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Wholeheartedly.
So that's just become part of your MO then, right? Is to serve people, not just show up and say, I'm a realtor, I'm going to market your house and I'm going to do it better than anybody else. But talk to us about your mentality. When you step into a relationship, what does that look like tactically for you? Are you just asking specific questions and listening, and then afterwards going and finding ways to deliver on that? Or what does that look like?
Yeah, the question-based selling is and I hate even putting selling in there because it doesn't feel like selling to me, but it's really listening to where their pain points are or where their excitement comes from, and seeing how we can parlay the real estate to either solve that problem or increase their level of pleasure, fun, excitement about dreams and whatever they're wanting to accomplish in their life.
Really interesting. So it's not just about moving the wealth needle, although I would argue that a great agent like yourself is going to actually have advice and like consultative advice that's going to move the needle for people when it comes to their net worth, right? But additionally, you're enhancing their lifestyle. You're looking for other ways to really serve them and become a part of their life, helping improve all areas.
That's where I feel like the value is priceless.
I love it. So great. Is there anything else that from kind of ninja selling that really stands out to you beyond just that kind of go-giver mentality of adding more value than what you take? Is there something else, anything else that you would maybe point out that's been kind of instrumental for you and kind of taking you to another level?
Yeah, when I think on the personal side of things, I learned very early on. I worked for an agent that I saw produce a ton of business, but I don't think she was very happy in her life. And I thought, well, if that's what it's going to take to be a top producer, I'm not sure that I'm interested in that. Yeah. And I learned that early on. And it actually took me a long time to kind of get out of that mindset that no, you can actually be a high producer and have a very high quality of life and strong relationships with your spouse, your partner, your kids, your parents, your friends. But you have to be careful not to sacrifice them, right? And when you start to put work over the appointments that you have to be committed to your family, that's when you can get into a lot of hot water with quality of life and things go down. I mean, and then what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah, it does, right? You mentioned this before, is that there's only so much in an emotional bank account, even in a marriage, right? Even and especially with kids, right? That choosing a listing appointment over family works a couple of times, right? But if it becomes a pattern, those relationships, like you talk about, are the whole reason why you're doing this is to support and enhance those relationships. How do you train someone to kind of say no and have an abundance mentality? Is there something you've learned when it's like, I either can go on this listing appointment and there's a good chance I'm going to get it, or keep the commitment of going to my kid's soccer game? And like, that's tough, right? How have you learned to kind of navigate that to where you can have both and it's not an either I have a family or I have a good business, but how do I have both? How do I show up and be a great mom, like all in on the sideline on the soccer field, and also have a killer business?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sometimes I think we just need to take a deep breath. And when we say, hey, that time isn't going to work for me, could we do this other time? Removing the fear of actually asking the question. Most of the time, if it's a reasonable request, people are totally fine with it. We feel like we need to say how high when our clients say jump. But if we communicate to them that we have other commitments. If you had another listing appointment at that time, you wouldn't cancel that listing appointment you wouldn't sacrifice that for the other listing appointment. So we shouldn't be doing the same things to our families.
Boy, that's great. And I think people respect somebody who's got other commitments, right? If you say, when can we meet? Hey, my schedule's totally open. What's good for you? Yeah, yes, right. Yeah, I'm available. Like, am I the only person working with you? What am I missing? Right. Why am I your only client? Why am I your only commitment?
Yeah.
We know that when we go see a specialist, that, sometimes with like specialists, it's like they're a month out or 2 months out, right? Yeah. And it's like, well, they're the best, so we're going to wait for them, right? And I'm not recommending that real estate agents make their clients wait a month or 2 months for a listing appointment, but I think the principle is the same, that people tend to respect somebody who has their life in order, right? And it has their business in order. And there's a time, and I've got a slot on Tuesday and Thursday night at 5 p.m. I work later those evenings. Which one of those would work? If not, I can do Saturday at this time, and give them the options and let them choose, right? As opposed to letting them dictate your schedule. And heaven forbid they say that doesn't work and you lose that client. But guess what? There are other people out there that will. Is that kind of what I hear? Like that I hear you saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And I set the expectation early that I tell my clients that I run my business like a business, and I really try to keep to business hours. There's going to be those times that are emergency timelines, or we've got to get out to see this house because it's going to go multiple offers by tomorrow or the next day. And those are different situations. And I reserve those off-hour times for exactly those situations. And, not to say that I don't field a phone call at 8 o'clock at night, because that happens a lot, but I'm not out running around or talking to every text message that comes in with every question. It's reserved for those real timely issues.
Those are the exceptions, not the rule, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I love that. Can you state that phrase again? I run my business like a business, therefore I work to keep business within business hours.
Yep, exactly. And, there's times that things are going to come up in those off hours, and when they're time sensitive, I'm there, and they're more emergent, but otherwise I'm with my family, and I'll tell people that, and they tend to respect that.
Yeah. Powerful stuff, Beth. If anyone who's listening today is like me, and you're saying like, oh my goodness, that's the life that I want. What Beth just described right there, having number one, the courage to say the things that she's saying, and to create the standards, really, right? The standards that you've set for where you're going to work, when you're going to work. I've heard Tony Robbins say before is that a standard is just simply what you're willing to put up with, right? And if people right now are saying to themselves, I want to have standards like that. I want to have both. I want to have both. And, as I mentioned, Beth is a certified ninja coach, and she's got a group coaching program that's ridiculously inexpensive when it comes to coaching. $125 a month for the value that you get. What does that look like, Beth? What does Ninja group coaching look like? Can you describe that to us?
Yeah. Well, it's based on the Ninja selling principles, which, if anybody's familiar with that, is the reason why I've been able to have the business that I have and the life that I have. The Mastery program is a once a month, 3-hour in-person group seminar, if you will, here in Portland, and we have one in Seattle as well. An opportunity for people to get together and continue down the ninja path and really practice what the ninja selling talks about and break it down over a 12-month period. And you're in a room with other like-minded ninjas, real estate professionals. There's not just realtors in there. We've got lenders and a contractor and title folks. And so that just is great for any real estate professional that's interested in kind of elevating the industry in general and being around other like-minded professionals.
I love it. Later September, is that right?
Yes, third week of September. We meet the third Wednesday of every month.
Okay, very good. So for people that want to look into this, right, and they're like, oh my goodness, that sounds like that would work for me. I'm gonna Beth's made a special offer for the Think Bigger real estate audience. If you're in either Portland or Seattle, or like you can make it to these events on a monthly basis. What she's going to do, kind of a special opportunity, is that there's a class designated typically for those people that finish ninja selling, right? and it's a pricing strategies class. Give us just a little taste of what that looks like. And I guess what I want to maybe finish here real quick is that if you sign up and mention Think Bigger to Beth, she's going to invite you to this pricing strategies class even before you go through Ninja Installations, where you're going to get some real meat. So talk to us, Beth, about what that pricing strategy is like, one thing that they'll walk away with having attended that. Absolutely.
I feel like my pricing strategy is pretty unique. One of the Ninja philosophies is that there's no such thing as my price or the seller's price. The market dictates the price, right? So how do we get the focus off of us having to come up with the value of the property? And it matters who says it. My goal is when I go into a listing appointment is to have the seller say the price that I'm hoping they're going to say, that I want, that I feel like is in the market value range. And I've got some pretty specific strategies and tools that Ninja Selling offers and are available out there that I incorporate into my CMAs and my pricing conversations, and would be more than willing to share that with everybody in that seminar.
I love it. And the date of that is to be determined, but it's going to be early September. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, probably. Probably right before we get started on our new group, or maybe even the week after. Yeah.
Great. So again, if you want to get access to that, reach out to Beth. She's on Facebook. What's the best email to contact you at, Beth? Let's put that up here on the screen.
Best email is team
okay.
at BethKellan, KELLAN.com.
Okay. So if interested, either A, you want to learn more, or B, you're like, this is for me, I want to do this, reach out to Beth, tell her that you heard about this through the Think Bigger Real Estate Show, and she will include you also in that pricing strategies opportunity coming up, which sounds golden to me, like just sounds super valuable. So Beth, this has been amazing. Before we end, I want to ask you the signature question of this show, which is, you are a big thinker. That's why you're here today. What is it that Beth Kellan does to continue to be a big thinker so that you don't get kind of mired down in small thinking? Teach us what you do to continue to expand your own possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. I think being on the Ninja path and really continuing to think about my bucket list, having things like vision boards. I have all the accountability that I could possibly have, individual coaching. I have an accountability partner, groups within my mastery hold me accountable. And that Think Bigger is also dreaming bigger. And if you can dream it, it can happen. But you also have to write it down and put it into action. And it's pretty amazing that once you just start to think about it, the universe figures out a way to make it happen.
I love it. Good stuff, Beth. This has been a total pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on and pouring into the Think Bigger Real Estate audience. And for those of you that have enjoyed this and have found value in this, do Beth and I a favor, comment, like, and share this. Maybe tag somebody in the show notes who you think would benefit by hearing that there is in reality a way for you to have it all, right? For you to have a great life outside of real estate while producing at a really high level. Beth is modeling that for all of us. So again, thank you all for tuning in. And my last request of all of us is to go think bigger. Thank you again, Beth. Been a total pleasure, and I appreciate all you've shared with us.